Welcome to Max Premieres. Today I'm bringing you 17 films and series from 2026 that should genuinely be on your radar, from Marvel to Pixar, from dark thrillers to projects everyone will be talking about for months. My take is completely honest. We're going from worst to best, and if something didn't convince me, I'll tell you straight. If you find that useful, it would help me a lot if you left a like and subscribe to the channel. Thanks so much for your support. Number 17. The Punisher, One Last Kill. Frank Castle doesn't retire cleanly, and everyone knows it, including the creators who designed this one-hour special as a direct bridge between Daredevil Born Again Season 2 and the upcoming Spider-Man film in the Marvel Cinematic Universe. Castle tries to leave violence behind, tries to exist without it, and predictably, it doesn't last. A new threat pulls him back into a conflict he can't ignore, and from there, things get very dark, more psychological and emotionally heavier than any previous version of the character has shown within the MCU. It's not a full season, and it doesn't need to be. The special format gives it a concentrated intensity that a full season might dilute with filler episodes. If Season 2 of Born Again convinced you that these characters genuinely work within the MCU, this special is the natural continuation that closes that argument definitively, exactly what the story needed. Number 16. Mutiny. Late summer, Lionsgate, Jason Statham. That combination is already telling you something important about the studio's real expectations for this project. Studios don't release films in that window unless they genuinely trust what they have. Mutiny follows a man whose entire life collapses following the mysterious death of his billionaire employer. Framed and on the run, he's suddenly being hunted from every direction while trying to unravel a conspiracy that goes far beyond a single isolated crime. High-speed chases, brutal fights, relentless pressure throughout the runtime. It has all the ingredients of a classic Statham thriller, but the conspiracy angle gives it more texture than pure action alone. Statham in survival mode, combined with Statham in investigation mode, is a blend that works when the screenplay matches the central concept. The studio clearly believes this has what it takes to compete with the summer's biggest releases. We'll see if they're right when it arrives. Number 15. Legends. Sometimes the scariest stories are the ones that actually happened in real life and not on any screen. Legends is based on a real operation from the early 1990s, when British authorities were so overwhelmed by drug trafficking, they made an unprecedented decision: recruit completely ordinary customs agents, give them false identities, and send them directly into some of the country's most dangerous criminal gangs. No real spy training, no guaranteed escape plan. Just a new name and a role they had to play with their own lives on the line every single day. Those false identities are called legends, and once you step inside one, there's no clean way out without serious consequences. The central tension here comes precisely from the fact that these aren't trained action heroes built for extreme situations. They're normal people building trust with violent criminals, conversation by conversation. Knowing one wrong word could cost them their life. Number 14. Exit 8. Most horror films build their fear around monsters or explicit physical violence that the audience can predict and brace for. Exit 8 does something completely different and far more unsettling. It traps you in endless repetition with no way out. Based on the viral indie video game, the film follows a man trapped inside a subway corridor that loops indefinitely. Every hallway is identical to the last in every visible detail. The rules are simple and absolutely suffocating. If everything looks normal, keep walking. But if anything feels even slightly off, any small anomaly, any detail fractionally out of place, you have to turn around immediately, or the loop resets completely from the beginning, with no exceptions. What the film adds beyond the game's original concept is a genuinely well-constructed psychological layer. The corridor stops being just a physical space and starts reflecting the character's fears, guilt, and unresolved past. The loop horror concept has precedence, but it lands with genuine power here. Number 13. MIA. Growing up on the streets of Florida with big dreams and no real way out. That's how we meet Ada Tiger Jones, the center of this 9-episode crime drama. She wants Miami, she wants a different life, she wants something bigger than what the place she was born could ever realistically offer her. When her family's drug operation collapses into tragedy with no warning, she stops dreaming about escaping and simply starts surviving day to day. Forced into an underworld she never fully understood, but that now actively needs her, she has to navigate constant betrayals, inevitable violence, and her own ambition within Miami's criminal landscape. The series is being described as a character-driven descent rather than flashy crime entertainment. Less about spectacular action moments and more about watching someone change under pressure, slowly and irreversibly. If you like shows like Narcos or Ozark, where personal transformation matters as much as the crimes, this energy will feel completely familiar. Number 12. An Enemy Within. Picture your own wedding night with all your family celebrating around you. Now picture someone slipping a note into your pocket that reads, "Kill your father-in-law before midnight," or "Your wife dies tonight." That's exactly what Caleb Wingate faces newly married into a powerful and wealthy family, the celebration in full swing around him, and a clock already running with no way to stop it. The threat comes from a figure known only as the Wolf, a deadly sniper with a very specific personal vendetta and the patience of someone who has waited years to execute it without error. As the night progresses inside a remote Victorian hotel, the layers begin to peel back. Corporate corruption, crimes buried for decades, betrayals running deep through the entire family history. Guests keep dancing with no idea what's happening, and Caleb has until midnight to decide what to do with everything that has just landed on him without warning. Number 11. The Mummy. Forget treasure maps and desert adventure. Director Lee Cronin, who made Evil Dead Rise, is doing something completely different with this franchise, and the tonal shift is dramatic from the very first frame. A journalist and his family lose their young daughter during a trip to the desert. Years pass. The grief becomes part of how they live. Then, impossibly, they find her inside a crashed transport vehicle carrying an ancient sarcophagus. She's back, except she's not exactly the girl they lost. What follows goes deep into possession, body horror, and psychological dread. The central idea that separates this version from everything before it is striking. The monster doesn't stay in the tomb. It comes home with you, and it destroys everything you loved from the inside. By far the darkest and most personally devastating take on this story that has ever reached any screen anywhere. Number 10. Prisoner. Handcuffed to the man you're supposed to be guarding isn't a great situation under any reasonable circumstances. For Amber, a young prison transport officer just doing her job that day, it becomes a pure survival situation with zero margin for error. She's assigned to escort a high-value prisoner to court where he must testify against a powerful criminal organization that would prefer him dead before he opens his mouth. Simple job on paper. Then the convoy is ambushed, the guards are killed one by one, and she finds herself alone with the man she was transporting, literally bound to him, hunted by the people who want him silenced. 6 episodes. One continuous story with no unnecessary pauses. The entire series is built around this single relentless situation. And the core tension isn't just the external pursuit, it's the fact that the person she most needs to trust in order to survive is also the person she has every reason in the world to fear. Number 9. Vampires of the Velvet Lounge. Vampires using dating apps to find victims. It's a premise so ridiculous that it somehow works effortlessly. The Velvet Lounge is their territory, a neon and music bar that looks glamorous on the outside and hides something far darker behind its perfectly decorated walls. The plan is simple and the night should be quiet and productive for them this time. Then the vampires accidentally match with vampire hunters instead of defenseless victims, and everything falls apart in the most chaotic way possible in record time. The film runs approximately 105 minutes and leans fully into that from dusk till dawn energy, where humor and bloodshed crash into each other at full speed with no warning and no permission asked. The cast alone deserves your full attention. Mena Suvari, Rosa Salazar, and Tyrese Gibson in completely controlled, total chaos mode. For a night of light horror with plenty of attitude and no intellectual pretensions, it delivers exactly what it promises. Number 8. Star Wars. Maul Shadowlord. Maul has always been one of the most visually striking characters in Star Wars, and one of the most underused in actual screen time throughout the franchise's entire history. This series finally fixes that definitively. Set roughly 1 year after the Clone Wars with the Galactic Empire on the rise, Maul is no longer anyone's apprentice, and that changes everything. He's rebuilding his own criminal empire from the shadows, operating from a remote world beyond Imperial reach, manipulating criminal organizations, and actively searching for someone worthy of becoming his new apprentice. The tone is darker than most Star Wars content, closer to a noir-style power struggle than a classic heroes versus villains story. 10 episodes released 2 at a time, with the finale timed specifically to land on Star Wars Day. If the series lives up to its premise, it could be some of the best content the franchise has produced in a very long time. Number 7. Beef, Season 2. Season 2 of Beef doesn't continue Amy and Danny's story. Lee Sung-jin went full anthology format, entirely new characters, entirely new conflict. This time the world is an exclusive country club, and the spark that sets everything off is a young, engaged couple who accidentally witness a violent argument between their wealthy boss and his wife. That single moment pulls them into a spiral of manipulation, blackmail, and emotional warfare where everyone is playing an angle and nobody comes out clean. Oscar Isaac and Carey Mulligan play the powerful millionaire couple at the center of it all, while Kaylee Spaney and Charles Melton are the two young people caught in the disaster they accidentally triggered. Yun Yoo-jung as the club's billionaire owner adds yet another layer of pressure impossible for anyone to manage. All 8 episodes dropped at once on Netflix on April 16th. Season 1 won 8 Emmys, and the pressure on this second installment is enormous. Early reviews are very strong. Number 6. Spider Noir. New York City in the 1930s, rain-soaked streets, corruption everywhere, shadows in every corner of every block. That's the world Spider Noir drops the Spider-Man story into, and it's a genuinely striking reimagining of the character, one we've never seen handled this way before. Ben Reilly is aging, exhausted, working as a private investigator in the city's most dangerous neighborhoods. He used to be the Spider, a recognized hero. But that chapter of his life is supposed to be permanently closed. Then a new case finds him without warning, and the past he buried starts resurfacing whether he wants it to or not. The series will launch in 2 simultaneous versions, black and white for the complete classic noir experience, or color for viewers who prefer a more contemporary aesthetic. It's a bold, creative decision. If the execution matches the visual and narrative concept, this could feel like nothing else in the superhero genre right now. Number 5. Ballistic. Nan Redfield works at a munitions factory. Steady job, ordinary life, safe routine until news arrives that her son has been killed in combat overseas. That alone would be devastating for any mother anywhere. But then she discovers something that breaks her in a completely different and deeper way than simple grief. The bullet that killed him came from her own factory, from the place where she worked, from a product she helped manufacture with her own hands for years of ordinary work. That discovery doesn't just add pain, it creates a mission she cannot ignore. She starts investigating the system, the people responsible, the complete chain of decisions that ran from the floor of her factory to her son's death on foreign soil. The further she goes, the larger the picture becomes. It's not just one bullet. It's about corporate responsibility, systemic corruption, and what happens when grief has nowhere to go but forward without stopping. A powerfully conceived story. Number 4. Mortal Kombat 2. The 2021 film laid the groundwork. This is where the real tournament begins in serious, definitive fashion. Mortal Kombat 2 picks up with Earthrealm's fighters still standing but facing a threat on a completely different and far more brutal scale than anything before. Shao Kahn is rising to power, and the survival of the entire realm is at stake in the most brutal fights the franchise has put on screen in its modern cinematic timeline. The addition every single fan has been waiting for is Johnny Cage, played by Karl Urban, one of the most iconic characters in the franchise, finally arriving in this version on the big screen. Early footage already shows him as a fundamental part of the story rather than a simple fan service cameo. The film significantly expands the universe, bringing in realms like Edenia and Outworld and introducing Kitana and Shao Kahn himself in person. For longtime fans and new viewers alike, the promised spectacle is considerable. Number 3. Toy Story 5. Few franchises carry the accumulated emotional weight that Toy Story does across 4 films' decades of nostalgia embedded in every frame. The 5th film doesn't just lean on that legacy, but actively uses it to tell a story that feels genuinely relevant today. Woody, Buzz, and Jessie face something they were never designed for, a world where children have moved on to tablets, screens, and smart devices. Physical toys are being left behind, and the characters start feeling that in ways the film isn't afraid to show with full emotional honesty. Jessie has a significantly larger role this time, and the central theme running through the entire story is relevance, what it feels like to have been loved once, and slowly sense that love fading without being able to do anything to stop it. Andrew Stanton directs and Tom Hanks returns as Woody. Greta Lee plays new character Lilypad. If Pixar does with this material what it does best, this could be the definitive closing the saga deserves. Number 2, Disclosure Day. Steven Spielberg, Alien Territory. John Williams scoring the entire film from scratch. That lineup alone makes Disclosure Day feel like a genuine cinematic event, rather than a conventional genre film with no larger ambitions of any kind. The story follows a meteorologist who begins noticing inexplicable patterns across the entire planet. Crop circles, strange symbols, phenomena appearing simultaneously all over the world, and slowly realizes something enormous is happening, something governments may have known about and been quietly concealing for years without telling anyone. Spielberg hasn't made a science fiction film of this kind in a very long time, and assembling this particular team suggests he's treating it as something genuinely special within his own filmography. The visual language of the CinemaCon trailer recalls his best work in the genre without directly copying it. With that combination of creative talent assembled in one place, it's hard to imagine it won't justify seeing it on a big screen when it finally arrives. Number 1, One Wish Willow. Bear has been in love with his best friend Nikki for years, silently, painfully, without ever saying a single word about it to anyone. When he finds a supernatural object called the One Wish Willow, he does exactly what anyone would expect him to do in that moment, makes the wish, gets the relationship he always wanted, and then things start going very wrong, very fast, with no warning at all. What begins as the fulfillment of a lifelong fantasy turns sour and becomes something dark and unnatural. The wish doesn't just change the relationship, it twists it into something dangerous for both of them with no way back. The more he holds on, the worse everything around them gets. The film follows that deterioration all the way into full psychological horror without asking the audience's permission or offering any respite along the way. It's a small story with a simple premise, and that's exactly how the most disturbing horror works. You don't need massive visual effects when the fear comes from what you feel in your chest when a lifelong dream turns into a nightmare. And that's the list for today. There's a lot to watch in 2026, and I hope this selection gave you a clear idea of what's worth your time and what isn't. If you like this video, don't forget to leave your like, subscribe, and hit the bell so you don't miss our upcoming videos. See you soon. Thanks for watching.